get going. Starting with the call to order is me doing that right now, and then B is roll call.
Wagner present.
Burford, present.
Thoman here.
Brown.
Lewis.
Villanueva present.
Kerfman.
Beck present.
Awesome. Do we have any public discussion of anything not on the agenda? Also awesome. Starting with the certificates of appropriateness for 1107 East College Street.
Yeah. That one. Share screen.
Yeah.
How do we minimize this?
No, we just always have it to record.
Screen though.
At least it seems we do.
If we
We don't
duplicate the display, it'll work.
Oh, okay. I was just gonna.
Oh, that. Oh, I didn't even see that one. It's not.
Okay.
Okay, we have 1107 East College Street. It's in the East College Street Historic District, located here with the star. And this is the house. It's a 4 square, and this one happens to be, it has some colonial revival details like the classical columns, but it's basically a 4 square. This is the west side of it. You can see there's a projecting bay on the first floor. This is the rear. There's an addition, I believe, from the mid-'80s there on the back. And this one happens to have a barn garage at the alley. The application was submitted to replace windows, and most of them include the attic windows and the ones that are labeled double hung or DG, as well as I think there's a couple that are labeled picture window. The ones with an X are not included in the project, like the one next to the front door on the left. And here are the other sides. Of course, the ones in the addition are not included. So the application was to replace all the windows, and the replacement was an Anderson pocket replacement made out of a composite material. And the application also included brake metal trim, or I mean, we would typically call that aluminum coil stock. So at the time, we didn't have any information about the deterioration of the windows, and so we met with both the owner and the window supplier about that, talked about the fact that we don't approve pocket replacement windows because they are a whole window that sits within the frame and reduce the size of the windows. We also only have in our guidelines the approval of wood or metal-clad wood windows, and that we would need information about the deterioration. And so our rehab inspector went and viewed the windows, and he came back with a recommendation that the 6 attic windows should be replaced. And this is one of those. And so we agreed with that. We had a further look at the photos and came up with 3 additional windows that we felt staff could approve replacing. Just another shot of one of the attic windows. This is one of the other windows that we were able to approve replacing. This one happens to face the neighbors to the east. It shows a lot of rot in that corner. Somebody's probably used epoxy or something inappropriate to glaze the window, and so we can approve replacement of this window. This is a window that faces south towards over that rear addition, and while this one is likely just a deterioration of a mixture of moisture getting on there with the finish for the wood and stuff, it is rough looking enough that it could be hiding something that's a bigger problem. And so we can approve replacing this one as well. And then the third one is this one over one of the west-facing air conditioners. And again, it's possible that it's just finish, and removing this, you're fine. It gets a little rougher over in the corner. And so we also let them know that we could approve replacing this. And then we let them know that we could not approve covering the exterior trim with anything, including metal, and that we would need an appropriate window product. And frequently what we do is, if it's obvious that the deterioration is just in the sashes and the frame and sill can be repaired, then we suggest that they replace them with just sash replacements, also called sash packs. You can get them in wood or metal clad wood, and that allows the rest of the window to remain the same because you're only replacing the sashes. If the damage is more extensive, then they would need to use a new construction window. And, any trim that gets damaged or something, they would just replace with matching trim. The owners did not want to go with the staff approval, and so they decided to bring the project to you, and so that's why we're going through it. This is just another example of one of the windows that we were not going to approve replacing. It needs to be rehabbed just like any other window after 50 years or whatever. Little bit of darkening in the finish. It's probably alligatoring a little bit some places. I would expect that the glazing putty might be hard and need to be replaced as well. And then, of course, we can see in the window frame there's some, paint that it just needs to be touched up there. There are a few windows where the meeting rails don't meet properly. Often you can fix that just by raising the upper sash all the way up into the frame where it goes. Sometimes they have swelled or settled, and then you can plane off just a little bit of the top of that upper sash to make it go up, or conversely the part of the bottom sash. So whether they meet or not is another thing that can be repaired. There were also a few with broken cords. Obviously, they can have new ropes put on, and in fact, typically you do that with every 50-year maintenance anyway. This is the same window with the rope, and it just needs to be cleaned up and reglazed. Here's another one with some deterioration of the finish, but not like the ones that we were going to approve replacement. This one has a small hole in the sash right there that can be filled with wood putty, and this window can be repaired just like any other window. And here's another one. This one's north facing, where the rails just don't meet properly. And this one is the other, I don't know which one is which. There's both of the second floor windows on the west side have air conditioning units in it. I don't know which one is which exactly. One of them we can approve replacing, and this one is the one that we would not. When we met with the contractor and the owner, they also talked about replacing the front door. And it was not included in the original application, but we had the rehab inspector look at it anyway. And these are some photos of it. It obviously could use a new finish. It could probably use some weather stripping. He said that it seems to fit the frame well, and so we would not approve replacing it either. We would just assume that it needs to be repaired. So the guidelines, I included the first little intro paragraph for siding in the guidelines, just because it talks about how, people tend to put on synthetic siding and in other cases, maybe metal over their trim in order to prevent the need to have things be painted over time and to prevent that need for maintenance. What's important here is that the application of, in this case, synthetic siding, but any synthetic material would just trap moisture in, lead to the deterioration of that historic wood, and also cover it up so we can't see it anymore. And so this section does include parts about trim, and so it does recommend repairing historic wood siding and trim, which is what we would recommend. We don't know that any of these windows need to have their trim repaired on the exterior. We don't have photos of those, but if that was the case, it wouldn't be covering it with metal. It would just be repairing it or replacing it with new wood that matched. And in fact, in the siding section, it is actually disallowed to remove historic trim pieces or cover them. In the window guidelines, I also included that front paragraph for that. And basically it talks about how, windows are one of the most important elements that define the historic character or the architectural character of a building. And so we do recommend repair and documentation of the extent of deterioration in order to approve replacement. It goes on and it talks about, repairing if possible, making sure that the replacement windows match the historic windows. I mean, if we're only replacing one, we need it to match the others. Of course, they could be repaired and matched as well, but they could be replaced and matched or just replace the sashes. And that's also where it talks about they need to match the size and all of that kind of stuff. It does talk about using wood windows to replace historic windows, and that metal-clad solid wood windows are acceptable. And this is something that is also the case with the Secretary of the Interior standards that ours are based on. With review, with those guidelines, they always tend to want to replace them with the same material, wood, but they do sometimes allow metal-clad wood. And in both cases, it is actually disallowed to install either just metal windows without wood core or vinyl-clad or vinyl windows. The section on wood just recommends repairing it, and this was included basically because of the trim part of the application. Okay, so the analysis is basically that we had the rehab inspector go. He found 6 windows. He recommended replacement. We found another 3 as a compromise, but there are 15 that we would not approve replacing. The other part of this is that the pocket replacement windows are not considered acceptable because they don't fit the requirements for size and everything. And then there's the fact that the material is a composite. Now for Andersen windows, they call their composite material Fibrex. It's a wood fiber and a thermoplastic polymer. They even talk about it as an alternative to vinyl. Not as an alternative to wood, but as an alternative to vinyl. The polymer is 60% of the makeup of the product, and the wood fiber is 40%. Our guidelines allow for the metal-clad wood, but not a vinyl in this case. There are some exceptions. I didn't include any of them for windows. I didn't include them because this house is contributing in a historic district, so it's not eligible for any of those exceptions that we have for vinyl windows. And this is just some screenshots from the Anderson website about their material. It's a little small because I couldn't get it to show up there, but they have a little video about it and everything. And then, of course, the other part of the analysis was that we wouldn't approve covering the exterior trim with the metal coil stock or brake metal, whatever they want to call it. So currently, the recommended motion is to approve the project as long as we have these conditions that the replaced windows are limited to the 6 dormer windows and then the 3 second-floor windows noted by staff. The replacement windows are either sash packs or new construction windows composed of wood or metal-clad wood, and the existing wood trim is repaired and painted as needed, and no metal is installed. A couple things. In case our interpretation of which windows are in those photos is wrong, we are totally welcome for the owner to say, oh, no, that's not a second floor west window, it's here instead. That's fine. It's the ones in those photos that we would approve replacing. And if the commission wants to approve something other than this, if it's something that's disallowed, you would need to come up with a reason for an exception.
Okay, thank you. Does the commission have any questions for staff? Is that where we are?
Yeah.
Okay. This recommended motion, Lewis speaking, sorry. This recommended motion basically says replace the windows that we've approved using using the guidelines. Thank you. I was like, what's the word I'm looking for? And then any other window being repaired using the methods we've also talked about before.
Yeah, basically, the recommended motion pretty much adheres to what staff could approve
Okay.
without even bringing it to the commission.
Gotcha. Okay.
And so, yeah, it's anything beyond that, staff wouldn't be able to approve because we didn't have the documentation of deterioration required. And so that's why you'd need it.
Gotcha. Okay. Thank you. Any other questions? Okay. Do the owners wish to speak?
And just, you'd come up to the podium and you'd just sign in on the sheet right there.
Want to sign in? Hi, my name is Pat Boutel. We live at 1107 East College Street. This is my husband, Glenn. I've lived in that house for 50 years this year. The house was built in 1912, and all of the windows, except those in the addition and the remodeled part, are original to the house. They're double hung. None of them work. And there are some that are more badly damaged than showed in the pictures because it's on the outside of the frame, and those were all interior pictures. The windows not only don't work like double hung windows, they don't meet in the middle, so you can't lock any of them, which makes it not very secure on the main floor. And the windows that we wanted to put in are windows that you can wash from the inside by tipping in the sashes. Those are the types of windows we installed in our addition. We have 14 new windows on our house, and they all, if they're operable, they all both panels tip in, which makes it much easier for even young people to maintain their windows. We have storm windows on our house. I guess they're 40 years old or so. and some of them need to be taken off the house. But I can't wash the windows. Hiring people to wash the windows is not only expensive, it's very difficult. So that was one reason for our thinking about replacing them. In addition, they're single pane, and even with storm windows, we get ice on the inside of our windows, and sometimes, well, the glass between the storm window and the window, and sometimes on the inside of the windows, depending on how much wind we get. So that's why we wanted to replace the windows. And I can get into the door later, but my understanding of the Andersen windows is that you really can't tell from the outside what they're made of. And I don't understand why, with the warranty that they have and the reputation that they have, we can't install their replacement window. They don't damage the inside frame and sash. They don't really, well, I don't understand what the metal flashing is that is talked about, but my understanding is it doesn't really look any different from the outside than it does now. But I do have an objection to replacing one of two windows on the side of the house. The 9 windows that are mentioned on the third and second floor, there are 2 windows on the south side of our house. One is approved for replacement, the other one isn't. On the west side of our house, one is approved and the other one isn't, which means that the storm windows would be taken off, those 2 windows. It isn't necessary with double glazed glass, which is what we were planning to put in. So you've got 2 windows that don't look alike on that size, whether they're the same side or not. I understand that rehabilitated windows are single pane glass, which doesn't do anything for wind penetration. I guess I just really would like to know if you have metal-clad wood windows, you're not really saving the wood anyway. I don't know. As far as the door is concerned, it may appear to fit, but it doesn't fit. We've tried to put, one more thing about the windows. We have replaced the cords several times, and we've attempted to do something so that the windows lock. They just don't, and I don't know how you would, I mean, there is no shaving. There's quite a gap on most of those windows. You can't lift them up. I don't know if it's paint or what it is that's up there that keeps the, maybe they've just warped. I don't know. And we have replaced all of the cords that have broken several times. That one didn't, because I had it with the windows and we were going to replace them. The door, I've never had a key to the door. It has a deadbolt. I don't have a key to that either. And the wind just whistles in those keyholes, so I put tape over them. It doesn't fit. It's warped. And air comes in all around it. We've tried to put weather stripping around it. You can't get it to fit. It's just weird. It's a nice door, but I'd rather have one that didn't have cold air passing around it all winter long. If we can, and I don't know how you rehabilitate a door like that. So I would appreciate you considering let us replace all the windows in our house that are old and get a new door. Thank you. Do you want to?
Thank you. No, you did it.
We did bring the Anderson engineer and so on, if you have any questions for them.
Thank you. Yeah, if you're going to speak, can you also sign in as well?
Yes.
Thank you.
For address, should I put our business address?
Sure.
I have a sample chain with colors so you could see gloss and that, and I brought a sash so you could see construction. Should I bring that you could pass it around?
Sure.
And this is not anybody particular sash. If you drop it, you're not gonna like, you know, cause somebody to not get a window here, so.
Take it.
It's not the smallest sample, but it gives you an actual view of what's there, which I thought was somewhat appropriate as well.
They'll have you down.
My name is Bruce Timmerman. I'm Vice President for Zephyr Aluminum. The residential windows that we install are the Renewal by Andersen windows. Zephyr Aluminum is a company my father started, and we're having our 75th anniversary this year. Seth is our Iowa City salesman who goes to see people like Boutell's for residential windows. And so he's the one who first struck up the conversation with them. Yes, the Fibrex window is unique. And Andersen has a patent on that material, and they protect it quite vigorously. So there are no other manufacturers who make a wood fiber composite window. And I suspect that's probably one reason why the National Park Service really hasn't compared a Fibrex window to a metal clad wood window. I would stipulate that the gloss and the finish on this window probably is more reminiscent of a painted wood window, a painted pine window, than clad, windows that are out there with a aluminum cladding over them. That I think those aluminum claddings are usually shinier, have a little more gloss to them. That this is more of a flatter finish that is what would be appropriate to an old wood window. We have not done any historic windows down here in Iowa City. We have done them a number of times closer to Dubuque, where we're based out of. I've met and gotten approved a number of times by the Dubuque Historic Preservation Commission and the city of Galena. We've worked with them, and the city of Galena has 5 historic zones or important levels, levels 1 through 5. Level 1 we are not approved for. Level 1 is Main Street, first floor, downtown Galena. But they've done others, and they've approved us on Zone 2, which is second and third floor apartments on Main Street in Galena. And they actually do recommend to people, because they've been happy with us, that, why don't you go talk to Renewal, that they like it. And the state of Illinois, their Historic Preservation Commission, because this window does have wood content to it, it's 40% wood fiber, that they like that. That is actually, we're not in the state of Illinois, but the state of Illinois Historic Preservation Commission has approved that. Renewal does not have architectural reps who go to commissions like other brands do. We're basically a one-on-one to homeowners. So Renewal doesn't have people that go to a state historic preservation commission and do presentations. So I gotta admit, that's a lacking of the association. We're 99 affiliates across the country, and there's not affiliates who really take over a state and go to a historic preservation commission in Des Moines or Springfield or Minneapolis, St. Paul, I guess. Yeah, we do go and we meet with people one-on-one. On the commercial side of things, I've met with school boards and city councils on different projects over the time, so I've had the chance to get up and speak to people before. Yeah, I appreciate the opportunity to look at windows one-on-one. I think Boutell's are pretty, well, Mr. Boutell, I know is a smart individual, being a civil engineer, and he and I enjoy talking over things as we're going in and out of the buildings. But yeah, aesthetically, they've got some good points. If we replace windows on one part of it and don't replace the matching window on that same side of the elevation, that's aesthetically not that great for them. And so I get it that they're in kind of a bind. They're really struggling as to how to move forward. And I know you're looking at trying to maintain your standards and what you have done, and follow, recommendations based on national reviews or whatnot. I might even put out there, just kind of off the cuff, that you haven't really seen our windows on a historic spot. There are other ones in town that we've done that I could reference that are not in historic, but they're easily visible, that maybe could be reviewed by committee members to say, does that look appropriate? And you could see a sample of work. There are some apartments above bars down in the pedestrian mall that we have done that would be, very reminiscent and would be a good example. And maybe there's a chance for review. Maybe there's a chance for installing some windows that have been noted as deficient, and after reviewing those, going and having Boutell's come back and say, after we've done these, could we now look at possibly doing more if they met historic preservation appropriateness? That's just something I'm throwing out there as, how do we make this work? So that maybe there's a chance to try some, see if they work, and if everybody's happy, then moving forward with more that make Boutell's house more comfortable for them and still look good and be more acceptable for them to live in. So, are there any questions on material or manufacturing or installation?
How much does Burford speaking, how much does what kind of percentage would a pocket installation reduce the window size?
You're going to lose about 3/4 inch on each jamb on an insert window versus a complete tear out, or we call it full frame. So insert versus full frame is the term we use.
Any other questions?
Burford again. So typically you would not put a storm window on top of your installation?
There's no need. The air tightness on this are plenty good that a storm window is just going to get in the way. So.
Brown question, if someone wanted to, for aesthetic reasons, to put a storm window on, would there be any reason not to?
No, you could. Matter of fact, there was a large project up in the Twin Cities that Renewal's corporate office worked on for sound control near the airport. And they used the window with slightly different panes of glass in the insulated unit, which cut down sound transmission. And that's now standard on all windows. But then they added a storm panel on the outside as well to cut down the STC or have a greater STC rating. No. You can tilt the windows in, the storm windows on the exterior plane. So,
Sorry, and you said STC, what's that?
sound transmission category. So, it's a rating that not all architects like anymore, but that was one that was been used in ASTM and other literature for decades.
Okie doke. Any other questions? Okay,
Okay?
thank you. Oh yeah, we still have your window. Okay. Right now, then we make a motion and then we discuss it.
Yes.
That's the best.
Okay.
Unless you have any more questions for staff or anyone.
Guess maybe one. Again, our issues are the window they want to install would change the size of it. It also is not the material that matches our guidelines. And not all of them have been deemed replaceable for us. Okay, those are the big.
Yeah, and the door, so currently the recommended motion doesn't say anything about the door. The door is not technically on the application. If you want to approve the door, though, you can kind of apply it to the recommended motion. But I think not mentioning it is just not including it because it's not currently in the application.
Okay.
This is Brown, did staff have a chance to look at the exterior images of the windows also? Because I know that the homeowner said that some of the damaged windows were damaged on the exterior, not the interior, and it's not what we saw here.
No, and we typically do view them from the inside because that's usually where we see the most damage with these having storm windows over them. You know, we could probably look at the exterior of the first floor windows, but we have to be able to see the window through the storm window. So we're not going to be able to view the second floor ones unless, you know, somebody'd have to photograph those for us.
So it would be possible for us to say basically like at this point, the 6 dormer windows and the 3 second floor windows have been deemed replaceable, but if they have further proof for other windows, we could.
Yeah, they can always apply again, and then we would just, you know, we would want that documentation.
Gotcha.
We aren't going to go out and get on a lift or a ladder to do that. They'll need to get someone to do that for them.
Okay.
Can you
You'd need to come up to the microphone, please.
The designation of one of those windows is not accurate. I don't know how to describe it, but it's on the east side, and it isn't an operable window. It's kind of a decorative. It's the one that's got a curtain in it in your photograph. It's on the east side, first floor, not second floor.
Okay.
And it's got a twin that's on the north side.
Brown, I had one other question. You said that we had the rehab person look at the doors and windows and give some opinions.
Yeah.
Is that city staff that did that?
Yeah.
Okay.
David Powers, but when I used to go out do windows, he would go out with me.
Okay, thanks.
Burford, have we looked at this Fibrex material before, considered it as a viable?
No, this is the first time we've considered it. We haven't. The closest to it that we have considered on a historic house at all is probably the FIPON. But I'm not necessarily sure that what the content of FIPON is. FIPON, it would not be for windows. It was for some balusters and stuff on a historic property. They seem to have a similar exterior texture, but.
FIPON is a polyurethane product,
Okay.
so, and there's no wood fiber into it, so.
But the issue of the pocket window remains,
Yeah, we
even
have,
if we were to approve this specific composite material.
Right, we have not approved a pocket replacement on
Okay.
any property in Iowa City so far that I know of.
The renewal windows can be done both, as I said, as a insert or a full frame. And in the full frame, we would take the whole frame out back to the, assuming there's 2x4s or 2x6s, back to that rough opening. So that is an option. So using the Fibrex material. So the insert window typically saves the interior trim. When we do a full frame or complete replacement, because the old window has a slope sill and our window is going to be, it'll have a slope on the top exposed surface, but it's flat underneath. Our new jam depth is usually a fraction of an inch taller, so the casings and the extension jambs on the sides are not long enough. So if we do a full frame instead of an insert, the homeowner typically loses their casing, which to them sometimes is more important than the exterior brick mold or other appointment. They love their interior trim. And if I do a full frame, I'm often going to have to tell them, I'm going to have to replace that. I might get something close to it, but it's going to have to be replaced.
Louis speaking, does that, either of those options been things that we've approved ever?
You know, typically we approve a window product that matches the historic window.
Right.
And so we don't have these types of issues. In this situation, I would suggest sash replacement instead of a window replacement if that was the issue. But you know, we've seen products and approved products that don't have a discrepancy in the installation like that. So I don't know.
Okay.
You do have two contractors on the commission. I know one of them has dealt with historic windows for sure, but probably both of them. And so you could also ask them about some of that during your discussion.
Okay. Do we want to make a motion before we do that? Yeah, I think I'm not allowed to.
Beck moves to approve a certificate of appropriateness for the project at 1107 East College Street with the following conditions. The replaced windows are limited to the 6 dormer windows and the 3 second-floor windows noted by staff. The replacement windows are either sash packs or new construction windows composed of wood or metal-clad wood, and the existing wood trim is repaired and painted as needed, and no metal is installed.
Wagner seconds.
All right. Commission discussion?
Well, I'd say there's a whole bunch of stuff here. This is Brown talking. So as I make in my own notes, right, there's repair versus replace on the windows, and we have opinions both from the homeowner and from the city expert. There's Fibrex versus, there's material, right? Fibrex versus wood, as far as what's in the guidelines and what's not. And then there's the insert versus full frame. The door is somewhat not a part of this. So I don't know that I have a clarification on all these things that I can say, oh, here's what I think. But it just feels like there's a lot as we start to talk through this. I guess I'll go through a couple of my other notes here, right, is I think one of the challenges, and when we talk about Fibrex versus wood, is you go to something like cement fiberboard for cement board or whatever it's called for siding, which it wasn't allowed. And then at some point somebody said, well, maybe we can try that out, right? But that's a long process, I feel like, for the Historic Commission to arrive at the fact that that might be allowed. I don't know that when that was allowed on, I think it was even a temporary basis, and that might still be in place right now, but the idea was let's try it out and see, right? And it took a lot of conversation to get to that point. I also feel like there's a challenge for any homeowner because in the end, as homeowners, we want to do what we want to do. And all of the facts that exist, surprise, surprise, support what I want to do, right? And I know that as a homeowner myself. What I heard were some concerns that, from what I understood from our expert that have seen it and from my own thinking, have other solutions besides replacement. And And I mean, some of those specifics, right? The door, if there are no keys and we don't lock it and the air comes through it, one could just fill the hole, right? And put that's caulking there, I don't know, something, right? But it's not necessarily, in my own mind, reason to replace it if there's been no attempt to have it repaired. And again, I know the door is not actually on this application, so it's somewhat irrelevant, but some of the thought process for myself then applies to the windows also, where if there hasn't been an attempt to replace the wood or to repair the wood, that might need to get tried first. So anyways, those are some of my initial thoughts.
And I guess for me, thinking about, if we replace one window on a side of the house, but not the other window, they won't match. That to me says a lot. As preservationists, we're wanting to maintain the original look of the home. And the fact that a new window and an old window won't match, that right there is telling me that this is kind of it would have a modern look or feel on an old home. And we're here as preservationists, so I guess I am always going to side with maintaining what's there. I think if I were in this situation, instead of looking to put money into new windows, I would maybe try to find groups that could come in and restore what is there, replace sashes if that's necessary with wood. That's kind of the preservationist point of view. So I guess I have to kind of go with that. And we have these rules in place. We haven't approved other homes. The home, though, is beautiful. I think the windows are actually really beautiful. I can tell you've taken good care of it. And I am very happy with the state that it's in. I think it just needs some care and some love and somebody who's got a preservationist eye to come in and work.
Yeah, this is Lewis speaking. I tend to agree with that. I do think, again, if aesthetically it changes it, then we do have a change in what is actually being done to the windows. I also agree with if there's not been I think an example was some of the windows don't close evenly or lock, but if we haven't really tried to repair those yet, then I would want to try that first. As an example for the windows. Again, I agree with the door. I'm not sure what to do with that right now. Yeah, I mean, again, unfortunately, the guidelines do mention materials, right? It's not just what it looks like, but it's also what the material is. So we're kind of stuck there. I think we also tend to be a little bit more strict isn't the word I want to use, but it's the word I'm going to use for windows. Those are the things that people want to change the most, but they ended up being too modern for the guidelines kind of stated.
They're the eyes of the house. That's
Sure.
how I've
Yeah.
always seen it.
So yeah, I tend to like this motion. I think if other windows for other reasons are found to be deteriorated beyond repair or deteriorated in ways that would allow us to replace them, then we can, either submit again or give more evidence that those things are deteriorated and add this to the list as well. So I guess that's where I stand.
Jessica, could you go show the pictures of the attic windows, the 6 dormer windows? Is there a way you could bop back to that? I guess first off, they're fixed, aren't they?
Yes. Well,
You can open them, but they're not double hung 2 sashes.
There's no weights and ropes.
No.
Oops.
You went right there, right. So the other thing, it looks to me, though, too, you wouldn't need to put in an insulated glass window up there because the attic's not insulated to begin with, it looks like. And maybe just having fixed 6 new sashes, wood frame sashes to replace those would be a very effective and inexpensive way to take care of it. That'd be for deal with the 6 dormer windows, approach I would take. The other thing to keep in mind about why you probably wouldn't want to do the full frame replacements is that not only you've got the window weight well that's on either side. So that would, you're not going right up to the studs. There's going to be about a 2-3 inch gap there. So the sash replacement would work, but then with the kit, you do lose that 1.5 inches, 3/4 inches on either side, or you just replace the sashes that are bad. That's a pretty easy profile to replace.
And that's Frank speaking, who
Oh,
is
Wagner.
the carpenter. I didn't identify myself. Thoman was the last female, but you have experience with this, Frank.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And a lot of times with those upper sash where the two rails don't meet, it can be that after, 112, 15 years of the exterior getting painted, sometimes it's a buildup of paint up there and it just won't let it close. And it could be that bottom rail might have warped, but you can work that out a number of different ways. And I guess I'd go back to what Thoman and Lewis and Brown have said. I was trying to think who said it. We haven't approved this material for windows, and the guidelines we try to stick, especially with the windows. I think if we open up the floodgates, if we allow something that we're not supposed to, according to our guidelines.
Burford, and we do have people that have been trained by Bob Yap in restoration of traditional windows in Iowa City.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, Mike, this is Beck speaking. One concern that you often hear from homeowners is that, well, I would rather replace because repair can't do what staff or the commission argues it can do. What kind of resources are there for homeowners to access the needed repairs? I mean, if homeowners feel stuck trying to find help to do these kinds of repairs, what is it possible to do to help with that issue?
Is that for me?
Yeah, I think anybody who's willing to answer it, but to some extent, it's like, well, I'm worried that repair won't address what you're saying. Well, it will address.
Well, most of the Bob Yap trained repair people will make a window look like it did the day it was installed originally and function that way. They will also weather strip it so that it does not get quite the air transference. And then, of course, it needs a storm window. But generally, the people who do that as their profession, they can address all of the concerns that have been discussed. There's always going to be some moisture that gets in between panes of glass. Just like when the insulated glass unit breaks down, you're going to get moisture between those panes of glass, only you'll have to replace them then. And so that's just the nature of windows and having a difference in the air temperature on one side than the other. Having a good air gap and a storm window definitely helps with that, as does just basic things like curtains. That can help with that as well. But we can always help them find contractors who can repair things. And if they can't find them, then we will do everything we can to find the right repair contractor. We can also help financially with our fund to repair them. Some property owners don't fit within our income guidelines, and that might be the case here. So not everyone is eligible to use the funds, but we do offer that whenever a repair comes up too. Does that answer your question?
Yes, thank you very much. Yes.
Any other commission discussion?
Burford, I do commiserate with living in an old home.
Yeah.
There are going to be issues, always.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Yeah, old homes are kind of living, breathing things. And it can be difficult. But that's also what makes them so wonderful.
Okey doke. Do we want to vote? So voting on the motion as worded here, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Okay. Thank you. Moving on to E, discussion of commission annual work plan.
Could I ask you one question? Have any of the replacement windows that you've approved, do they open so you can wash them from the inside? Or are you stuck with double hung, climb a ladder, wash the windows forever, including on the attic? I mean, I don't like to go up ladders, but have any of them been windows that could be tipped in to wash?
I don't know that.
Mostly I would imagine because the windows we approve are not ones that you put in like that. You repair
Well,
pieces of them,
it's
right?
possible that a new construction window could do that, but I don't know if the brands that we have approved in the past have that option or not.
What
I don't wash my windows.
So, but like follow up with you guys about new construction windows, because those were an option or no?
I mean, we
It said they were, but
Yeah.
I don't know what that meant because I've been told that new construction means you have to take the frame out. And I would assume you would. An insert, you leave the existing frame, I thought. I don't know.
I would imagine.
That's correct.
So, but you said in your letter, or new construction.
Yes.
So what did you mean?
A new construction window will remove the existing frame and sashes and replace them with a whole new window and frame. That is correct.
Both inside and outside.
They do not replace the trim. Usually, with the ones that we have approved, they remove any trim and reinstall it. And the windows fit in the same opening.
And what windows are those?
I can send you an email with some of the products that we have approved.
I thought you were going to do that before, but I didn't get anything.
I
so-
might have forgotten.
All right,
I'll make a note.
thank you.
Follow-up question? And it might be terminology a little bit on my part, but application as well. To me, the term new construction means that window is installed with a nailing flange, which goes on before the siding or the brick.
We just don't want a pocket replacement. So however, yeah, and if that is the case, then you'd remove the exterior trim to put it on.
So I think that's to a carpenter or to a technician, that's an important distinction, that saying new construction might be poor direction, that a window without designed, well, plus so many of the new construction windows, true new construction windows that are designed with a nailing flange are not designed to be screwed in through the jamb into the existing opening. That's a much smaller subset of the windows out there.
Sure. We've used new construction as shorthand for not a pocket replacement window.
Okay. So,
And we tend actually to approve sash replacements more than full window replacements anyway.
okay. Yeah, I'll just suggest that maybe that's a topic to be broached by you further down, that new construction might be a misnomer in the technical parlance.
Sure.
That a window screwed in through the jamb would possibly be a proper, and to look at the window manufacturer's installation instructions to make sure that they are capable of being installed through the jamb. Like if we were to do a full frame, that's the way they're designed to be done,
Sure.
okay?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Did you want to add something?
Well, there are new construction windows that do not have nailing flanges. The Terrace Mound project that I worked on, Woodlawn project that I've worked on, we're actually getting the frames or have us installing the trim boards to the frame, and it's as they were done when they were built in 1885 or 1875, and that is like the nailing flange, but it's the trim attached to the face of the jambs, and that's how it holds it in place. So I understand that's a good point. Most new construction is going to have a nailing flange, but technically there are new construction windows that you don't do it that way. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. And in those examples, the manufacturer didn't include the trim boards. We provide the trim boards and then attach those to the jambs. Then, especially if it's an older one and you're still trying to deal with that window weight well on either side. This way, the trim is 4 inches wide. It just covers that over and it catches the 2x4 studs on either side. A lot of times there's not even a header above these old houses because they're balloon framing.
Okey doke.
Anybody wants to see it, it's 1011 Woodlawn. I'll be happy to show you.
Field trip.
Yeah. Okay, letter E, discussion of commission annual work plan.
Okay, so I actually just took the slides from last year and put them back in here. What?
It's 2007.
Oh, that's because that's when the preservation plan was written. We had related them to the preservation plan goals specifically. And so we still have on there Oak Grove Park, and we're making progress on that one because the DOT is going to do a study of the area, and then we can take the information from that study and hopefully help with whatever signage or naming or whatever you guys end up wanting to try to help with along those lines. I did note when I was going through this that the director had said that 2026 or 2027 was when this park might be up for its overhaul, so it might be coming up. We had on there as a priority to do a landmark district subcommittee, and we did not do anything with that yet. So that is potentially still a priority. Engaging with the public and city council was also a priority, basically coming out of the landmarking of this property here. There was a desire to continue with that. I don't know that the commission really did anything along those lines. Those were the three priorities that we had on the work plan. We also had ongoing work like the preservation awards, and we're gearing up for those again next month. Our preservation fund, so this slide is old and it's not a $42,000 budget, it's a $40,000 budget. Ongoing work was also the Summit Street Monument. We still, want to do something with that as it just melts from acid rain in front of us. And then we had some long-term goals, and those just basically were things I think that you guys were keeping in mind, whether or not they would ever come up as a project. There was just an interest in continued landfill diversion, opportunities to highlight our diverse history, such as the Oak Grove Park. The update of the College Green Historic District, I'm continuing to put it in there until we actually update it to make that house part of that district. We haven't since 10 years ago in May will be when we moved it, and we still haven't updated the district. Updating the handbook maps. I actually have just started the Brown Street District map update. I don't know when that might get to you, but it's started. And then developing a disaster preparedness guide. We didn't really do anything with that. So that is what we have for the current work plan, and we can either approve it, you can talk about it, you can change it, it's up to you.
Seems fine to me. I don't like, I mean.
Sounds good to me.
The things are still important. It's just time and energy, I would imagine.
Yeah.
So do we have to move to approve?
You
or-
do need to approve it because I need to send an approved one as part of the annual report.
Gotcha.
So just, you'd make a motion to approve it and then vote.
Wagner moves that the commission approve the annual work plan.
Beck seconds.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Okey doke. Moving on to have certified local government annual report review.
Okay, so I put up a bunch of slides here, and we'll just kind of breeze through them. And if there's something that's missing, it's probably our name or something like that. So don't worry about that. So they wanted to know if we undertook any survey or identification projects, and we did not. And then they want us to explain how we plan to meet this requirement in the future, which I think is interesting. And so I basically said that the work plan includes a priority of forming a subcommittee who would do this. And while we have included some areas of focus for survey projects, we currently have no budget or resources. I also presented this to City Council, and I told them that as well. And so they know that that's also a limiting factor. We don't have a grant or a budget to do any of that survey stuff. Did we undertake any National Register or nomination projects? The annual report asks us about things we do related to the National Register as well as our local designations. And so, no, we did not do any National Register nominations. Were any of the National Register properties moved or demolished in this year? And the answer would be no. Next year, we will have the Cannon Gay House listed there because it will be demolished. I guess I don't know if it's already demolished. I'm not.
They started salvaging.
Oh, okay.
That's the one where we did like a trade.
Yeah.
Okay.
Can we designate local things? Yes, we can. What properties did we designate? We don't have any. It doesn't ask us yes or no. It just says include information, and so we don't have anything to put there. Include the name of individual on staff or commission that meets the Secretary of the Interior's professional qualifications. You can use this website to go see what those professional qualifications are if you want. I meet it in historic architecture and architectural history, and then Margaret does in prehistoric archaeology.
My super relevant expertise.
You never know. The diverse stories in Iowa City could go there. Have we passed any ordinances that directly or indirectly impact preservation of historic resources? I don't keep track of this, so I asked people like Ann, and we did not. And then question 8 is about different types of activities that we do. The first one is planning, and this is basically our work plan that we just approved. It asks about that. This one, we have a little longer answer. It's what assistance on preservation issues that we have provided. And so the first one is basically well, I guess I don't have the paragraph division here. Oh, no, that's a different part. Sorry, got lost. So this basically talks about the fact that we have a certain number of applications. And this year, actually, we had the lowest number of applications that we've had since I've been here. So 11 years in March. We had 90 applications, but 8 of them we voided as either duplicates or they didn't need to apply. And so that 81 is, before that, 85, I think, was the smallest number we had. We still have our preservation fund, and so that's one way we provide assistance. And I have a little more information on that later on. I made a report, basically, of all we've done since it was implemented. And then I talk about some larger projects where we helped with. Obviously, we had this problematic larger project with the garage without a permit. So I included that information basically because we had to work with the National Trust too and all of that. We also talked to them, PS1, about the close mansion, and we kind of walked around and talked to them about work they needed to do. I included this photo just so you could see how this beadboard in this canopy is curved up into the window head. It's just gorgeous. This is the kind of thing that we're trying to preserve. The person who wants to try to replace that, oh my God, it's going to be so hard because, Frank, are you going to want to do that? No. That needs to be maintained. And then we had the Union Bakery with the secondary entrance that we approved. That was another larger project that we had to work a lot on. And then they talk about our community public education, and the main thing there is the awards program. We didn't really do anything else public education this year. And then we have the challenges, successes, and stuff like that. And so this one, the first one is beginning in February, where we change how we review things at the staff level, and we talked about that here. We had the decrease from our high of 42,000 to our regular 40,000 on the Historic Preservation Fund. So I guess that's kind of a challenge, but it's still great to have the fund. Commission vacancies is probably our biggest problem. We had to skip a meeting and then reschedule another meeting last year, and we already had to reschedule this one. And if we don't get new commissioners, we'll have to reschedule May, just so you know. I know that not enough of you guys can be here in May. Hopefully we can get more commissioners. City Council also asked me about this. They wondered if you guys had ever talked amongst yourselves about why it's hard to get people to come or why it might be difficult to serve on the commission, that kind of thing. I told them that you hadn't really talked about it, but I have heard that other commissions have the same problem. But right now we have 4 open seats, which is huge. I'm hoping that we have already had an application for one of those. I'm not sure yet though, but anytime that you guys are ever talking to someone who lives in a historic house, you might want to say, hey, where do you live? Think about whether or not they might be in a historic district, then tell them to be on the commission. I don't know what else we can do. Targeted mailings haven't really helped. So I think it's a word of mouth kind of thing.
Jessica, on that, the 3 districts, Woodlawn, Jefferson Street, and the one by the
East College, yeah.
East
The
College.
little one, it's just that last block from Summit to Muscatine on
Okay.
College.
That's where Esther was from.
The the 4th one is the most surprising to me, and that's the Brown Street.
Well, that one, yeah, okay.
I don't know why we don't have a member from Brown Street. We used to have more than one applicant from that district. So if you have friends in that neighborhood or live up there, get the word out. And then a success was the fact that we actually got the DOT to study the Oak Grove Park area, which is great. Another good success is the 1011 Woodlawn, which is being worked on. And I showed a in-progress photo to council so, they could see that it was being worked on. And then the last one is actually about the loss of the Canongay House. Even though it preserves the Sangse Gilmore House, it is still a loss of a property in our city. And then the actual last one this is about the court cases, and so I'm not going to go through all of that. It's basically an update. Some have been canceled. There's still one going on. What partnerships did the commission form or continue? Pretty much the only thing that we've worked with this year was Friends of Historic Preservation on the awards. They've also written me questions. They're helping, PS1. And they might help the River City Housing Co-op, and so they reach out to me every once in a while. to kind of work together. Did we receive any grants? No. Do we have a website? Yes. Here it is. List the meetings. So we listed all the meetings, and note here again, we have September canceled due to lack of quorum and November rescheduled due to lack of quorum. Provide a self-assessment on our initiatives and programs. And basically here, I said that the commission has developed a successful awards ceremony, working with friends still, the progress on the Oak Grove Park, but then that further progress has been hampered by a limited number of commissioners, but I think, you know, nobody has free time to do things either. And so I included that as, you know, it's not only people, but the people we have having the time. Where are our files located? Upstairs. So there's a $750 travel and training budget. The department that we both are in includes a budget for our annual mailing, which is $2,000. We do that every spring. And then the fund comes out of the general fund, so it's not a part of our budgets. The vacancies are all listed here. Ryan, he moved out of state. He's the last one here, but Brown Street since last summer, Jefferson Street since 2021, and Woodlawn since 2022. They've been vacant quite a while. Then it makes us list training that we've done. I went to the Preservation Summit, and then I also went to these two deconstruction versus demolition. I guess it was a online course through the National Alliance for Preservation Commissions, and then evolution of historic building systems from the National Park Service. What training topic would be most helpful? I mean, I kind of wing it on these two things, and if you guys have input, then please provide it. But like today, there's no future deadline because we will be submitting this week. I said that as of last year that we still do have a shortage of contractors, even though I personally feel that's improving a little bit, especially we've gotten some people with roofs and windows that we didn't have before. But, you know, getting the appropriately trained contractors is still a thing. And then, again, just the whole commissioner thing and getting, you know, people, I guess, inspired to volunteer or something like that. So that's the training. And then they have suggestions for improvement. And frankly, here, I just did the same thing as last year, which is, you know, you guys don't have contact with SHPO, and we don't actually have much contact with SHPO either. And so, you know, they say that they're here to help us and support us, but I don't, you know, maybe they need to reach out more so that the commissions actually know that and know what they can help with. And I also suggested that maybe they just need to go around to commissions and train by showing what other commissions have done that are successful to solve the problems. That might be an option. If we do ever want them to come to our meeting, we can ask. They will do that, but we have to have a reason, and, you know, we just have to work on that. But it is something we can invite them to come, and they will. So the report I put in about the Historic Preservation Fund, just real briefly here, you know, we have the $5,000 matching grants. So we have approved funding on 69 projects, 48 properties. Only 59 have been completed. There's 6 still in progress, and then 4 others that were canceled. 2 of them, the owners no longer wanted the money. They just were paid for it by themselves. 2 of them were, I think both of those owners were getting loans, and so they didn't need them. And then we did cancel 2 projects, both on the same house. We held them over for 2 years, and they just never made any progress at all, and so we canceled them. So that's why the difference between what we've approved and what's been completed. The total cost of all those projects is $619,000, and the total fund payout has been $233,000. So that's really great. We list here some of the types of repairs. One project might have 3 different things in this bar, so you can't total up the ends and come up with 69. That won't work. But, because siding repair and painting frequently go together. But these are the general things that people have gotten money for. I think all of our approved projects are included in this bar graph somehow. Oops. And then just some project costs. As I said, the 619, the average cost of a completed project is $10,500. But then 39% of the projects that we've approved are over 10,000. So we're paying pretty much less than half on most of the projects that are going. The lowest one, we had somebody who got a grant for half of their $1,100 project. That's fine. We don't have any qualms about, if somebody had a $500 project, we would happily give them $250. It does not matter. But then our largest project, where we only could give $5,000, was a $37,000 project. So we have that happen sometimes. We try to divide it up into 2 projects that are actual discrete different projects, if at all possible. So our average payment has been about $3,900. So that's all I have on the report. Basically, same thing like the work plan. I need you to approve it. What we'll do is tomorrow we will give a copy to council and get the mayor's signature, and then on Thursday we will send it to the state. If you have any changes or suggestions, and you can give them to me now, great. If you want to go home and type them up and email them to me so I have them in the morning, you could do that too. But you should mention it here so it's included in the approved version if you want. But yeah, we do need to approve the annual report as well.
Okay. Do we have any motions to approve of that report from someone?
Brown, move to approve.
Kerfman seconds.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Okay. A report on certificates issued by chair and staff, starting with no material effect of 113 South Johnson Street.
Yeah, this one is a porch repair. The owners ended up calling an engineer, so it's been super complicated. The engineer wanted to replace all of the porch piers no matter what. And we just stood our ground on that one. And the outside one, right, I keep gesturing on the computer screen and you guys can't see where I'm gesturing. This outside one is the one that's depicted, I can't see the mouse, but over here. And that whole pier has shifted. It's pretty obvious. I would say 100% guarantee. I know that the alley was lowered, and there's retaining wall material now there, but they just ruined the underpinning on that pier. So that pier will be actually taken down and reset. But they're going to replace the porch floor structure and some other things along those lines, repair the balustrade. You can see, well, I guess this one's not in bad condition, but there are some that are, so. We had a minor review. We had a deteriorated window replacement. I can't even remember. I mean, I don't think that I reviewed this one, but I can't tell you which windows it was. It might have. Was it those two? Okay. And this is the replacement window to match. 722 Oakland, this was recent and it's just a roof shingle replacement. Intermediate review, this is the Union Bakery again, the one we approved the entrance. They're going through a big tax credit project, and so they are replacing all the upper story windows. The state had already approved it before we did. All of the street-facing windows will be wood, and then the ones, is it just the north side? Just the north side. The north side, over the little building next to it, those will be a metal-clad wood window. But yeah, and I looked at the pictures, and yeah, they're deteriorated. In fact, yeah, here's one. So, sorry, I put that in there, forgot. Oh, and then this was a garage replacement project that we approved a few years ago. They put it on hold because of just costs going up after COVID. And now they've come back and they are going to go ahead with the garage replacement, but it's not going to be as huge and extensive of a garage as what we had approved. It's basically a small garage that would fit our guidelines.
Consideration of minutes for December 11th, 2025. Do you have any amendments? to
Changes,
those
yeah, whatever. No?
I don't. Okay. Does anyone want
Fiona Wave moves to approve the minutes for December 11th, 2025.
Burford seconds.
to? All in favor?
Aye.
I also. All opposed? Okay. Moving on to commission information.
I didn't have anything, do you?
Nope. Commission discussion. First thing is senior center project memorandum.
Yeah, though I'll mention the second one, just because that date's up there.
Yeah.
See that? Just so you're aware.
Yeah.
And I'll say that we have gotten some responses to our awardees. We have some people who haven't responded, and now is the time when we'll need to reach out to those people who haven't responded. And then otherwise, I've been throwing the information for the ones who have responded into the Google Drive. So we'll need to figure out who's writing things and move forward with that as the next step.
Okay. I can send an email to the email chain.
Sure.
And just start getting everyone to.
Yeah, and I guess if for some reason you're not part of the email chain from the awards, because you haven't been getting them, but you feel like helping with this part, just email Andy or I, and we can get you in on the help for writing or whatever you want to help with.
Yep.
We'll just go through this a little bit. The city manager had provided a memo about the recent work on the senior center, and we had some photos. And so I was just going to show you some of the photos. The memo and photos are in your packet, but I'll show you here quick. So the base of the wall, this is on Washington Street. The base of the wall was stucco coated and it was cracking. I think we can all know here that the reason there was stucco coating along here was because they changed the grade to allow basement access. When it was originally built, this was below grade. So that's why there is the difference. They removed the stucco and uncovered the brick. I couldn't tell from my bifocals if that was brick or tile. I'm not sure, but brick, I'm assuming. So they put stone. Oops. So they put stone there instead, which is probably what they should have done when they exposed that foundation originally. So it's much better now. A lot of the work had to do with that balustrade around the roof edge, and it was composed of sections of stone with, I think it was originally brick on the interior for the structure, and then areas of balustrade in between. So we have, again, I'll point properly. We have one of those corners, and this shows you how it was really falling apart and it was starting to become a danger. They've already removed the balusters that were in between right here. And so this shows probably a different corner, but this is where the limestone has been removed. They've rebuilt the concrete block backing. In this area is where the balusters would be, but they're just stacked the limestone there for right now. So here's an area, one of the limestone piers. Some of the removed balusters are not there, but I mean, this one, I guess, is being retained. You know, it's a big process. They have to put up a whole lot of scaffolding around that roof edge to make it safe. This shows it from the inside. So here's the new concrete block, kind of the structure part. Here's some repaired areas of the rail and the balusters, and then it would have the limestone kind of skin on the outside. Here's some area that's been repaired. So there's some new balusters mixed in there. They originally got approval to use cast stone, and they ended up using limestone instead because it was not more expensive. Here again is some repaired section. I can't tell, there's a color difference. I mean, some are red, some are gray, some are red. I don't know if that's some are new and some are old. I don't know. I think that that's the difference between the stone color, though. We have the kind of rougher, weathered surface of the existing stone, and then the new surface of the smooth surface of the new stone. We can also see that they've carried the roof material up on the back of these, I guess, piers or whatever you want to call them, which it did not do that in an appropriate way before, and probably led to some of the, they had a lot of leaking in this roof a few years ago, but they had already taken care of that before all of this project began. Another big project was the windows. And so here we have an image of before. Notice these just 1/1 sashes, a lot of deterioration going on. And the new version replaced all those modern windows. So we have something that, we have 6/6 sashes that match the historic photos. And we've gone with a color scheme that we think was probably more historic for the big mullions between the different windows in the lower section. And you can't see it as well because there aren't shades behind it, but there's also a divided light pattern in these lower windows. Oh, and then the door. I mean, if you look at these, you know, the bronze, 80s doors, to these more historically correct wood doors is also good. This side, similar thing. We have the rehab with the one in process. Here's just some of the rot that they were finding in some of that wood. A lot of repair there. Here's a few shots, you know, getting ready to install the windows in those large ones on the front. Here they are. Some have been installed, some are still waiting, just working on that. These door surrounds took a lot of work. Both of them, the top portion was retained, but all of the bottom part was replaced. And this was obviously a replacement. I mean, this is just plywood in here. So they went back and rebuilt that.
I'm curious about the window you see on the far right. Was that once a large window?
This one?
Yeah.
No, they just had the smaller window, but yeah, all of this limestone is original. Interesting, isn't it? Mm-hmm. Here's the final. I personally think they actually made a mistake in these, but you guys are the only ones I'm telling. I really poured over the architect's drawings, but he didn't include a section to prove it. But, you know, we have the decrease to the panel, and then it should be increase to the outside edge, but instead we have this weird strip. This is not correct.
Is it right on the right-hand side?
No, it's the same on all four sides of the two doors, and it is totally wrong, but
It's consistent. We gotta take our.
Consistently wrong.
yeah. The elevation kind of looks like that, the elevation drawing from the architect, but they just interpreted it wrong because I couldn't in the drawing set find a section to show them how it should have been, so they must not have either. They also repaired these cast iron sconces. Water got in there, rotted it out way over time, and so they've repaired them. And that was it.
Cool. Right. Very neat.
I know it's a long meeting, I'm sorry, but it's been a long time.
Yeah.
No, that was very cool.
We don't have to vote. I can just adjourn. I
Yep.
think is what we've decided over and over again.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm doing that.
Because who's going to vote no?
Right. Someone who just wants to hang out.
So did you say it?
Yeah. I adjourn.
You need a gavel.
Yeah, I have one.
It's like, don't tempt him.
It's for a book club.